I thought the hardest part of my birthday would be pretending to like the cake. The restaurant was full, friends, family, warm candlelight reflecting off wine glasses. Everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. Lucky husband. Lucky life. Lucky timing. My husband, Ethan, stood beside me, one arm wrapped around my waist. We'd been married 4 years. Not perfect years, but stable ones. Or at least that's what I told myself. When the waiter handed him the microphone, I smiled automatically. Just a toast, he said, squeezing my hand. Relax. He cleared his throat. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, Ethan began. This year has taught me a lot about honesty, about courage, about knowing when to let go. The room grew quiet. I felt his grip loosen. He turned toward me, not with love but with something colder, something prepared. I think it's unfair to pretend, he continued, when a relationship has already ended in every way that matters. A nervous laugh rippled through the room. I waited for the punchline. It never came. So tonight, he said calmly, lifting his glass, I'm choosing truth. My heart started pounding. I'm leaving this marriage. Gasps. Forks froze midair. My mouth opened but no sound came out. My face burned. My legs felt weak. Ethan set the microphone down gently, like this was a gift he was giving me. I deserve more, he added. And I've already found it. Someone whispered my name. He leaned close and whispered something only I could hear. You should have read the documents I asked you to sign. That's when my phone buzzed in my purse. A notification from our joint account. Ownership status. Updated. I looked up at Ethan, still smiling, still confident. He thought this was the end of me. He had no idea it was the beginning. The room stayed frozen long after Ethan finished his toast. No one clapped. No one moved. Every face shifted between pity and shock, like they were watching a crash they couldn't look away from. Ethan took his seat calmly, as if he hadn't just shattered my life in front of everyone we knew. He picked up his wine and took a slow sip. I stayed standing. My hands trembled, but I forced myself to breathe. If I cried now, this would be the story they remembered. The woman who broke at her own birthday dinner. I sat down slowly. Across the table, my sister stared at Ethan like she didn't recognize him. My mother's lips were pressed into a thin line. Someone muttered, "This isn't okay." Ethan leaned toward me again. "We'll talk later," he whispered. Privately. The word privately felt like a threat. My phone buzzed again. Another alert. Secondary access removed. My chest tightened. I remembered the paperwork from months ago. The temporary business filings, the updated accounts, the documents Ethan said were routine. I trusted him. The waiter arrived with the cake, clearly confused. Candles still lit. My name written in chocolate. "Should we?" he asked quietly. Ethan smiled. "Yes. Let's keep going." As the knife touched the cake, something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. I unlocked my phone and opened an app one hadn't touched in over a year. My late father's lawyer had insisted I keep it. Just in case, he'd said. A message blinked on the screen. "Do you want to activate the clause?" I hesitated. Across the table, Ethan laughed at something a friend said, relaxed, confident, like a man who believed he'd already won. I typed one word. Yes. The screen flashed. Processing. Ethan raised his glass again. "To new beginnings," he said. My phone vibrated. Clause activated successfully. I looked up at him, finally smiling. He didn't know it yet, but his empire had just started collapsing. Ethan didn't notice my smile. He was too busy enjoying the moment, accepting handshakes, nods of approval from people who still thought he was brave for telling the truth. I watched him soak it in the same way he used to soak in credit for work he didn't do. My phone rested quietly in my lap. Then it buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. Ethan's smile faltered. He glanced down at his own phone, frowned, then flipped it face down on the table like it had insulted him. "Everything okay?" one of his partners asked. "Yeah," Ethan said quickly. "Just spam." But his jaw tightened. I excused myself and walked toward the restroom, my legs unsteady but my mind suddenly razor-sharp. Inside the quiet hallway, I opened the notifications. Executive access revoked. Primary shareholder restored. Board review initiated. My father's voice echoed in my memory. Never give someone power without a way to take it back. I leaned against the wall, letting the truth settle. The company wasn't his. It never had been. I returned to the table just in time to see Ethan stand abruptly. He walked a few steps away, phone pressed to his ear, whispering urgently. I caught fragments. What do you mean I don't have access? This has to be a mistake. Run it again. When he turned back, his face was pale. What did you do? He hissed, grabbing my wrist under the table. I met his eyes calmly. I read the documents you asked me to sign. For the first time that night, fear flickered across his face. A man in a dark suit approached our table, someone I recognized immediately. The company's legal counsel. Ethan, the lawyer said, voice neutral. We need to speak. Now. The table went silent again. Ethan looked around, confused, cornered. What's going on? He asked. The lawyer glanced at me, then back at him. Effective immediately, he said. You've been placed on administrative suspension pending investigation. The room erupted in whispers. Ethan turned to me, his voice bar. Ethan didn't sit back down. He couldn't. The lawyer stood beside him like a shadow, calm but immovable. Conversations around us dissolved into uneasy silence. Every person at that table suddenly understood this dinner was no longer a celebration. It was a reckoning. What investigation? Ethan demanded, forcing a laugh that fooled no one. This is ridiculous. The lawyer didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. There have been discrepancies, he said. Unauthorized transfers, misrepresented authority, and a breach of fiduciary duty. Each word landed like a blow. Ethan's eyes darted around the table, searching for support. He found none. People who had once toasted his success now avoided his gaze. My sister stood up slowly. You did this to her, she said, pointing at him. On her birthday? Murmurs followed. Judgment replaced sympathy. Ethan turned to me again, lowering his voice. Fix this, he pleaded. You don't know what you're doing. I stood for the first time that night. My hand still shook, but my voice didn't. You humiliated me publicly, I said. You planned this. You thought I'd be too shocked to fight back. He swallowed hard. I trusted you, I continued. And you tried to erase me. The lawyer cleared his throat. There's more. Ethan froze. We've also received a formal complaint, the lawyer added, regarding coercion related to marital assets and documentation. My heart pounded. Ethan's voice cracked. Who filed that? The lawyer looked at me. I did, I said quietly. That's when Ethan's phone slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Dessert arrived. Plates clinked softly as they were set down, completely out of place. Ethan stared at the table, breathing hard, realizing the truth far too late. This dinner wasn't ending with cake. It was ending with consequences. And the final one was still coming. The restaurant felt smaller after that. Like the walls were closing in, not on me but on Ethan. The lawyer stepped aside to let two men in dark suits approach the table. Compliance officers. Faces serious. Professional. Unimpressed. Ethan Miller, one of them said. We're here to escort you. Gasps rippled through the room. This is insane, Ethan snapped. You can't do this over dinner. The officer didn't blink. This didn't start over dinner. Ethan looked at me one last time. Anger, fear, disbelief all fighting for space in his eyes. You planned this, he said. I shook my head slowly. No. I survived it. They guided him toward the exit. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just firmly, like a man being removed from a life he no longer owned. As the door closed behind him, the room exhaled. Someone reached for my hand. Then another. I'm so sorry, my mother whispered. I looked down at the cake again. My name still written across the top. Candles melted, flames long gone. Do you want us to box it up? The waiter asked gently. I smiled, really smiled for the first time all night. No, I said. I think I'm done with leftovers. I stood, straightened my dress, and picked up my phone. New notifications waited, board confirmations, restored access, messages of support. Outside, the city buzzed like nothing had happened. But everything had. Ethan ended me with a toast. I ended his empire before dessert. And for the first time in years, I walked out free.